Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our virtual information session on our Attorney General's Honors Program. Before we get started, I'd like to run over a few housekeeping items so you all know how to participate in today's virtual meeting. First, all lines are on mute. If you have a question, you will have the opportunity to text them in to today's presenters. Please type your thoughts into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send them in at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them throughout the Q&A session at the end. Similar questions will be combined, and inappropriate or offensive questions will not be announced. And if you experience any technical difficulties at any point during our program, please explain your issue through the chat feature, and we will try our best to address it. Now I'd like to hand things off to our host and moderator for today, Chief of Staff to the Attorney General, Jonathan Garelick.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jonathan Garelick, as you heard, and I am the Chief of Staff at the New Jersey Attorney General's Office. We're so happy to be hosting this virtual session for people to learn more about the 2021 NJOAG Honors Program and its application process. I'll be moderating today's session. And we can appreciate how hectic everyone's schedules are in this world of telework and teleschool, so we're going to keep this session to 1 hour. Today, you're going to hear from the Attorney General, members of his executive leadership team, and a current honors program member. You will learn about the types of positions available in the honors program, the new to 2021 Solicitor Fellowship position, the honors program curriculum, and the experiences of a 2019 honors program member, and information on the application process. If we have time at the end of the session, as you heard, we will take Q&A from the audience. But to kick us off, it is my pleasure to introduce the 61st Attorney General of New Jersey, Gurbir Grewal.
Thanks, Jonathan, and welcome everyone. And thanks for taking time and expressing interest in our honors program. I hope all of you, as Jonathan alluded to, we're in a difficult time right now, but I hope all of you are doing well in this new virtual environment, which we find ourselves trying to deal with the effects of COVID-19 and all of the attendant issues that it's causing in our state. And so again, thank you for taking some time to hear about this great program. You know, when we first launched this program in 2018, I had the opportunity to go and speak at a number of law schools. And when I spoke about the honors program, I also spoke about the office. And at the time, I said that it was never more important. The roles of state AGs were never more important than at that particular moment. And that was 2018. And at the time, we were dealing with a number of issues. We were dealing with a number of actions that the federal administration was taking that we thought were detrimental to the residents of our state. And so we felt that we could fill a unique role at that time, whether it was pushing back against immigration policies that affected our dreamers, whether it was pushing back against environmental policies that affected the way we live here in New Jersey, our shoreline, offshore drilling, or the rollback of other regulations. It was my view that as state AGs, we were a bulwark against Washington and against those policies and had unique tools to push back and really hold the line. In addition to that, I also felt that we filled a unique role by pushing forward our own visions of what a fair and just state could look like. That as state AGs, and in particular as an AG's office in New Jersey, that we had unique tools to not only just push back against unlawful and unjust policies that affected New Jersey, but also push forward our vision of what a fair and just state could look like. And that meant pushing forward rules and regs through our Division on Civil Rights, our Division of Consumer Affairs, things that we could do here to stand up for New Jersey residents, and also use our litigation tools to stand up here in New Jersey for our residents, whether that was our environmental justice initiatives or other actions that we took here to hold folks accountable. But now, as I think about the role of state AGs, I think what I said in 2018 was very much true at the time, but right now, I think it's never been more important to join state service than at this particular moment in our country's history, because we find ourselves at the intersection of twin pandemics. On the one hand, COVID-19, which has forced us into this virtual setting and uniquely altered our way of life. But on the other hand, we're now contending also with the pandemic of racial justice, which is affecting everything in our day-to-day lives. We are seeing protests across our country calling for change when it comes to law enforcement, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to education, when it comes to environmental policies. And in the midst of these two pandemics, in addition to all of the other work we're doing to hold the line against unjust policies against Washington, we find ourselves filling a unique role right now here in New Jersey. Whether it's our state solicitor, who is upholding the governor's executive orders that are being met with constitutional challenges and establishing really novel policies and addressing novel issues rather, or whether it's even our environmental justice work right now. You know, when we talk about systemic injustices, we're continuing to push forward to address those types of issues. Or whether it's our work when it comes to law enforcement right now to address issues of systemic biases in law enforcement. You know, it's our honors program folks who are helping in all of those aspects of our work. You'll hear about some of that today. You'll hear about some of the honors program lawyers who are working on our use of force policy revisions in this state so we could lead when it comes to policing policies. You'll hear about some of the work that they're doing on environmental justice issues. And Jeremy will talk to you about the unique role that we've created of a state solicitor, which never before existed, and how he's working to fend off constitutional challenges, as I mentioned, to the governor's policies and executive orders, which are designed to keep us safe and to help New Jersey get through this once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. And so, again, all of you have the opportunity, if you join us, to play a critical role in these areas. And so, without taking too much time out of the agenda today, I wanted to welcome you. I wanted to tell you how important it is for us to have a pipeline of young and talented legal professionals continue coming through our office and work on these issues with us, and how it's never been more important to join state level service than now. It was true in 2018, but I'm telling you right now, it's us. We're doing it here at the AG's office when it comes to all of these areas to keep the residents of our state safe. So I hope you find today's session useful, and I hope to see your applications before the deadline, which I believe is October 16th. So with that, I'll kick it back to Jonathan and to the rest of the presenters today.
Thank you so much, General. It's now my pleasure to turn things over to State Solicitor Jeremy Feigenbaum, who's going to talk to you about the newly created position of State Solicitor and the even newer fellowship program that we've established for solicitor position within the honors program. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you, John. Very excited to be here. I'm so sorry to everyone that this is a webcast instead of an in-person chance for us to talk, but I do hope that folks will ask questions and engage, because we really want to have some sort of as much interaction as we can with all of the folks who are joining us today, because I do really think that what we're offering in New Jersey right now is pretty cutting edge in terms of the opportunities that we're able to afford people, you know, fresh out of law school, fresh out of clerkships, et cetera. And that's the honors program generally, and I think the solicitor fellow position specifically. So I thought I would just briefly talk about two different things, and then at the end, once you've heard from everyone, I'm happy to take any questions that folks have. The first is what exactly the state solicitor is and what I'm doing in this role at the Attorney General's office, and then what role could you play in that kind of work. So the role of the state solicitor is one that I think some folks will be familiar with from the context of other states, but is very new in New Jersey. I've just taken on this role in July. And that's the role in another state of state solicitor general, in the federal government of the SG position. It's a person who's working with their attorney general and the broader front office and the divisions on crafting and thinking strategically about the best way to put the state's foot forward in our appellate matters and in our constitutional litigation. So I focus especially on the Third Circuit, on the New Jersey Supreme Court, and of course, when we have cases there, in the US Supreme Court. Although trying to keep most of my cases out of the US Supreme Court these days, if I can get away with it. And my goal is really to help represent New Jersey on its most priority cases, to help us best either defend the progressive work or the important work that the state's trying to do, as well as to help push the ball forward on affirmative litigation and affirmative priorities that we've had, whether it's litigation against companies that have gone up on appeal or litigation against the federal government that is going the same way. In all of those contexts, we're bringing in my team and me in order to focus on some of those sticky constitutional and appellate questions that necessarily arise. So I think a lot of folks coming out of law school and coming out of clerkships have really been steeped in this world of con law and appellate work. And this is the chance. Essentially what I'm telling you is that's what I get to do day in and day out. My life is really focusing on that. And I'll give just a couple of examples of what we're doing with the state solicitors team and what I'd be looking for folks to be doing with me. So a couple of the issue areas that the AG mentioned, of course, bring in really sensitive and challenging constitutional questions, statutory questions, preemption questions, all sorts of other challenging legal appellate issues. That's true around the state's response to COVID-19, whether we're getting challenged by gyms that we closed or religious organizations that say that we've infringed on free exercise rights or any other issue where a constitutional right could arise. But it also comes up when we're standing up for the state in its law enforcement reform efforts, or when we're standing up for the state's gun laws against Second Amendment challenges, or for its environmental issues, when we're asserting theories in federal court to protect the state's lands. And of course, it comes up in our very robust immigration docket, which I think you'll hear a bit about as well later when Emily Wenger, a current member of the honors program, can talk about some of the work she's done in that space as well. But we've had really cutting edge immigration litigation. We intervened in Texas to defend DACA against Texas and a bunch of other states' challenges to it when the federal government wouldn't defend its own program. And we're defending our rules right here in New Jersey that limit when law enforcement officers can work with ICE agents and refer people on to deportation, which would undermine law enforcement and undermine the safety and trust in immigrant communities. We've been sued by the United States more than once. We've been sued by sort of advocacy groups plenty of times, challenging some of the more progressive or cutting edge work that we've been doing as a state. And through it all, sort of the state solicitor position and the team that I work with are laser focused on standing up for New Jersey and for New Jersey's residents in all of those different contexts. So let me now back up briefly, and I know there's all sorts of panelists, so I'll be done shortly, but let me back up briefly and just say why I think it's an incredibly exciting time to come join the New Jersey AG's office, and in particular to apply to be the Solicitor Fellow within the broader amazing honors program. So Solicitor Fellow position is new because my position is new. And the idea is that we're looking for a fellow straight out of law school or straight out of clerking who's really interested in constitutional issues, in appellate issues, in any of the kinds of cases that I was just talking about, to help take on a whole range of projects with me, whether it's litigating the validity of our immigration rules in the Third Circuit, or litigating the reforms that we have to defend increasing transparency in law enforcement and law enforcement discipline in the New Jersey Supreme Court. Whatever particular issues you're interested in, and whatever cutting edge constitutional areas you focused on in law school or during your clerkship, there's room for that within the Solicitor Fellow program because we do it all, because we're covering all of that sort of appellate work. And New Jersey has been sued on all sorts of issues that you could think of, from environment, immigration, to guns, to religious liberty, et cetera. And we'd really welcome someone who's interested in that kind of work to come be a part of it. It's a 2-year fellowship program like the whole honors program, and it fits perfectly within that broader framework. You'll have a chance to argue your own case. You'll be the lead on all sorts of briefs that we'll be working on together, and you get to be part of, I think, the cutting edge efforts we're talking about. The last pitch I'll make, very briefly, understanding you're hearing from a bunch of us today, is on the honors program generally. The whole honors program, including the Solicitor Fellow, I think should be incredibly attractive to folks thinking about public interest careers, because it is an opportunity to come be a part of a cutting edge state that is really thinking of creative new policies on civil rights, on environmental justice, on consumer protection, new litigation strategies, new constitutional theories and arguments that we're making in a way that's just really hard to achieve in the federal government, regardless of who the president is at any given time. You get to come in and be part of a really exciting but small team in an honors program with a lot of focus and work with leadership within the New Jersey AG's office directly on a lot of these priority cases, and focus on issue areas, whether it's appellate or civil rights or consumer protection or public integrity, that you are most passionate about. It's really hard, I think, to find good opportunities like that are sort of cross-issue area, but still at the cutting edge of all of those issues, than it is to find at a state government right now, where we're really pushing the envelope on litigation and on policy work that we're doing. And New Jersey is a perfect example of that kind of work. So with that, I'll turn it over to other people you're going to hear from. But I just really think it's an amazing time, like the AG said, to be working for states. And there's no better time to be doing it in an appellate litigation capacity or in the honors program more generally.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. The next person that you'll hear from is Senior Counsel to the Attorney General, Matthew Burns. Hey, Matt.
Hi, John. Good afternoon, everyone. As John said, I'm Matt Burns. I'm a Senior Counsel to the Attorney General. My role includes helping the AG oversee our affirmative civil litigation and our policy development. I'm going to talk briefly today a bit about the subject matter areas where you could find yourself working if you join the honors program, as well as how the honors program fits within our broader vision for the department. So since Attorney General Grewal took office in 2018, our top priorities for the department have included enhancing our affirmative civil litigation, standing up for New Jersey in court, as both the Attorney General and Jeremy talked about, strengthening police-community relations, which I think we all recognize is more important now than ever, and combating gun violence. And we designed the honors program to attract some of the country's most talented new lawyers to work on each of these priority matters. So let's start with affirmative civil litigation. In that area, honors program attorneys have the opportunity to say that they are interested in working on civil rights cases, or they're interested in working on workers' rights and labor enforcement cases. Or it might be that they're interested in consumer financial protection or data privacy and cybersecurity, or they want to represent New Jersey in cracking down on pollution of the environment and pushing back on rollbacks of federal environmental regulations. Those are all part of our new affirmative civil enforcement practice group in the Division of Law. And we've managed over the last 2 years to recruit a number of honors program attorneys who are passionate about those areas to do that work. In terms of enhancing police-community relations, we ask honors program attorneys to express interest in participating in conviction review and handling actual innocence claims by individuals who alleged that they were wrongly convicted of a crime, or to express interest in bringing criminal cases involving public integrity and corruption, which might include also civil rights violations by law enforcement officers. And then finally, I mentioned gun safety and gun violence. While some of the other areas that I mentioned are specifically civil litigation or criminal enforcement, gun safety and gun violence bridges both of those areas. So you might end up doing both civil and criminal work if you're interested in addressing gun safety and gun violence, or you might specify that you're interested in one or the other. So as I said, the first two honors classes have included a number of attorneys who are passionate about each of these areas. We view these people as future leaders of the department. Our goal is to have them complete their 2-year time in the honors program and then become deputy attorneys general and make their career here. You'll hear from, as we said earlier, one of them later. But in the meantime, I hope that you are interested in joining us and following in their footsteps. Thanks, John.
Thank you, Matt. It really is amazing to hear the breadth of possible experiences that we have for folks coming into the honors program, and to learn a little bit more about the curriculum that we've established for honors program members outside of their assignments. This is the kind of exercises in on-the-job learning. I'm going to turn things over next to Executive Assistant Attorney General Chris Edwards. Chris is the third-ranking individual in the office behind the Attorney General and the first Assistant Attorney General, Andrew Bruck. So Chris, the floor is yours. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. So honors participants or potential honors participants, I have practiced law for 25 years. I've been in the public sector and the private sector. And the one opportunity I wanted the folks in this program to have is the foundation that they need to become good lawyers. Working with Matt and working with Jeremy, you will certainly get the experience you need, and you will work around some excellent folks, including the Attorney General. But becoming a good lawyer means having the foundational skills. And I've worked on a program for 2 years to provide those foundational skills. As you may or may not know, the Attorney General's office has an advocacy institute. This institute's main goal is to provide training. And so for your first year in the program, we've scheduled a series of trainings that every other Deputy Attorney General would get. So there's a 2-day boot camp. Maybe it will not happen this year because it's virtually, so it'll be a virtual boot camp where you will be provided the basics of New Jersey law, administrative law, litigation, and various other things. If you are on the criminal side, you will also go to a criminal boot camp, and that will give you the foundation to practice law. New Jersey is often known as the AG's office is always known as the best law firm in New Jersey. Our goal here is to give you that foundation so that you can practice at a high level with Matt and Jeremy and Emily, who are excellent. So once you get that foundation, what I've also done is create a program where you can get the other aspects of the law. And so once the foundation is given, we're going to have you meet with clients, right? Because we ultimately, we listen to our clients. And so the goal is to have clients come in and talk to you, clients from civil rights and clients from different sections, to talk to you about exactly what their expectations are, because that'll also make you an excellent lawyer. So as Jeremy mentioned, we have progressive ideas and we have a progressive focus, but listening to the client will help us get to that end. And I'm also open to suggestions. And so just structurally, when you come here every month or every couple of months, I've decided to have a check-in with me. We can talk about the program and talk about the curriculum, what things you're happy with, what things you would like to change. And I am always open. And I think that that's important, so our curriculum can be organic. And I've been at the New Jersey Attorney General's office for over 10 years. It is a heck of a place to be. And with Jeremy and Matt and everyone here, it is a wonderful experience. And to have the curriculum to go with that experience and to go with the time, it's a really wonderful thing. And so I hope everyone applies, and I look forward to seeing you. Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks, Chris. And our last panelist for the day before we turn to questions from the audience is Deputy Attorney General Emily Wanger. As mentioned earlier, Emily is a 2019 Honors Program member, the inaugural class. And Emily's been here for just about a year now. So Emily, congrats on the 1 year. And we'll turn things over to you so you can tell the 2021 applicants about your experience in the Honors Program and the type of work they can expect to take on as a member. Thanks, Emily.
Thanks, John. Hi, everybody. So as John said, I'll just provide a little bit of an overview of the kind of work that I've had the chance to do since starting in the Honors Program a little over a year ago, and also just give you a couple of highlights of the excellent experiences that I've enjoyed so far. So I am a member of the Affirmative Civil Rights and Labor Enforcement Team, which is a section devoted to bringing affirmative litigation to protect New Jersey residents' civil rights and labor rights. And since I've started, I've had the chance to work on investigations into racial discrimination in mortgage lending and in secondary schools, and also state labor law violations in the fast food industry, among other investigations. I've also been involved in 2 major civil rights related lawsuits. In the first, which is the one that Jeremy was referencing when he spoke, I was helping to defend New Jersey's Immigrant Trust Directive against lawsuits brought by 2 New Jersey counties and also the federal government. And for those who aren't familiar, the Immigrant Trust Directive is an executive order issued by the Attorney General designed to strengthen trust between New Jersey's law enforcement officers and the state's immigrant communities by limiting the kinds of voluntary assistance law enforcement officers can provide to federal immigration authorities. I've also been spending a lot of time working on a multi-state lawsuit against the Federal Department of Education, in which New Jersey is leading a coalition of 18 states and the District of Columbia challenging the DOE's new Title IX regulations, which the Attorney General believes significantly weaken federal protections for students from sexual violence and harassment in schools, including colleges and universities, and also K through 12 education. And on top of that, I've had a chance to research and write memos and provide legal guidance about a variety of high priority issues for the AG's office and for my section's clients in civil rights and labor. So one highlight from my first year was winning one of our cases defending the Immigrant Trust Directive in the District of New Jersey when the court granted our motion to dismiss, especially since I had been deeply involved in researching and drafting and editing our briefing on that motion, which involved really interesting issues of constitutional law and standing, among others. And we're continuing to litigate that challenge and other challenges as it goes up on appeal and as they work their way through state and federal courts. Another highlight for me was leading a team of investigators looking into discrimination in mortgage lending, which involved researching and implementing a form of investigation that wasn't being used at the AG's office before that, which included also training a team of investigators. And one thing that I would emphasize was, for me, it was really important when I was considering joining the honors program that I be able to experience both working on investigations, which is something I hadn't really had much experience doing before, and litigating in court, which definitely involves skills that I had learned in law school and also when I clerked before starting in the honors program. And I've definitely been very satisfied in terms of getting both of those experiences and getting exposure to both. And not to mention the opportunity to work with and learn from some extremely talented attorneys at the AG's office. So that's sort of a brief overview, and I'm definitely looking forward to continuing my work in civil rights and labor over the next year.
Thanks so much, Emily. And we're thrilled to have you and the other members of the 2019 and the new 2020 members of the honors program in the office with us. So thanks again. So now we've kind of concluded our panel discussion. I'm going to provide a few remarks on the application process. For folks who may not have visited our website yet, the website has, as you can expect, all the information on the honors program, and you'll be receiving information through this webinar on the flyers that we put together with our honors program website. But if you just go on and Google NJOAG honors program, it'll come right up. So a quick overview of the eligibility criteria here. The honors program is open to third-year law students and students in the final year of graduate programs, for example, LLMs. It's also open to judicial clerks who will complete their clerkships by September 2021. And for folks who may, either on this webinar or have friends who are interested in coming to our office, we want to take your application, and we'd love to have you apply to a position in the AG's office. If you happen to not meet the criteria for the honors program because you're transitioning from another position in the legal sector, we still want to have you. And we have applications open for deputy attorney generals year-round, and we invite you to submit your application to us to work in one of our litigating divisions, whether that's the Division of Law focusing on civil litigation, the Division of Criminal Justice, which includes our prosecutors, or some of our more specialized areas, such as the Division of Gaming Enforcement, who ensures the integrity of the casino industry in New Jersey, the Division of Alcoholic Beverage Control, which does the same for the alcoholic beverage industry. We want to have your applications, but if you are interested in the honors program in particular, you have to meet one of those eligibility criteria. In terms of the application process, the deadline is October 16th. So that's coming up in a couple weeks. Should be enough time for folks to put their information together, but that deadline will creep up. So once again, that's Friday, October 16th. And as part of that application, you'll need to provide us a writing sample, and you'll need to complete the online application, which asks you to select and rank the 8 issue areas that you wish to be considered for. That includes civil rights, consumer financial protection, conviction review and innocence claims, data privacy and cybersecurity, environmental enforcement, gun safety and gun violence, public integrity and corruption, and worker rights and labor enforcement. As you heard our state solicitor, Jeremy Feigenbaum, mention, new to this year is a solicitor fellow position, which is also available as an application priority area for folks to select. And if you are interested in the solicitor position, that can either be included in the 8 issue areas or selected as a standalone if you are interested in focusing entirely on appellate litigation. The selection process includes review by a selection committee that is put together each year to review honors program applicants. This includes senior attorneys in our office, and we select candidates based on their academic and intellectual ability, their legal writing, research and advocacy skills, their interest in public service, which is something I would stress for folks who are putting together applications, is to highlight their public service interest, their leadership in school and community activities, and based on the totality of those criteria, we invite candidates to in-person interviews in Newark or Trenton in the fall of 2020, although we can appreciate that in-person interviews may be difficult this year due to the ongoing pandemic, and those may be converted over to telephone or virtual interviews. Once those interviews are complete, the review committee meets again and extends offers in the early winter 2021. Estimated time then would be sometime in early February. The offers are extended, and as with all applicants to positions in our office, the applicants who are selected must successfully complete a background investigation, and then you're set to begin work in 2021 as the 3rd class of the honors program. A couple of other notes about kind of general employment in New Jersey. You are, in addition to passing the background check, within 12 months of starting the program, you either have to establish residency in New Jersey or obtain an exemption from the residency requirement. This is so that we can comply with the state law on residency. And you also have to commit to 2 years of service with our office, which encompasses the 2-year honors program timeline. We do hope, as folks mentioned earlier, Jeremy and Matt, that after your 2 years of service is completed with the honors program, that you choose to stay on with us as a Deputy Attorney General working within the office, but the commitment itself is a 2-year commitment. And once again, October 16th is the deadline. So if you have not begun your applications, please visit our website and start that right away. We're going to now turn to questions, as I see a few have popped into the inbox. Here's one question. Where in New Jersey are the attorneys from the honors program based? That is a good question. That's an easier question to answer prior to the pandemic, where folks were assigned to work in either Newark or Trenton, which really was based on the section that they were interested in, issue area that they were interested in pursuing. The website does contain a listing of the different areas of focus and the associated locations for those areas, but due to the ongoing pandemic, most of us, as you can tell from this webinar, are working remotely, and we expect that the remote work to continue for the foreseeable future, at the very least until we're kind of clear from the pandemic. We're going to keep looking at some questions here. 2 other questions. How many applicants do we accept or looking to accept? Another good question. It really varies based on the number of applicants that we have in a current year and the quality of those applicants. In year 1, we took 5 folks to create the inaugural honors program class, and in year 1 was 2019, year 2 in 2020. Just a few weeks ago, we welcomed 8 people to the honors program. Would expect to be somewhere in that range, some probably below 10, but above 5. But it really just depends on how many people we have applying for the program and the quality of our applicants. I'm going to check to see if there's any other questions. Do we notify applicants if they are not selected? Yes, we do. We do notify applicants after the process is completed. So this would expect to occur in February or March of 2021. We do let all applicants know if they're, or sorry, applicants who are not selected know that they were not selected. But we do also refer their application to the divisions in our office that hire attorneys because we recognize that we have a really talented pool of folks who apply every year. And although we can't offer spots to everyone, we do want people to pursue, their interest in public service in our department, and we encourage them to work with the divisions in our department that hire attorneys, as I mentioned earlier, and we refer their applications to them. Another question: do you stay on? Do you have to go through an application process, or are you just promoted? For folks who wish to stay on after their 2-year commitment is up, kind of assuming that there's a fit between the person who's staying on and the division that they're looking to stay in, there's no secondary application process. You just kind of transition from your work as an honors program member to your work as a deputy attorney general in the sections and divisions that employ deputies regularly. Here's a question that I think will be best answered by Jeremy. How do you anticipate the solicitor fellowship cases may change with a change in administration at the federal level?
Sure, I think it's a great question, and I think it's going to be on the forefront of a lot of folks' mind when it comes to the affirmative lawsuits that we do. So I think there's 2 kinds of buckets of cases that we've always worked on. There's the sort of affirmative lawsuits where you're taking on a challenge to either a company or a civil rights violator or the federal government. And then there's what I think of as affirmative work through defensive litigation, which is you're defending cutting edge policies, whatever kind of policy you have. So a certain kind of bucket, if the administration changes in Washington, will presumably change considerably, which is the appeals in our cases where we were litigating against the federal government. But the truth is, I'll let you in on a little secret about state government work. We have a couple of those cases that are very consequential, but those kinds of cases are extremely splashy and newsworthy, but do not take the lion's share of the time and work that we're already doing to build out the state's agenda. They're important, and we're glad to be doing them, but they're actually not a huge part of the work that we're doing. Even on the affirmative side of the house, we are bringing cases against the federal government, but that's like all well and good. It's at least as important that we're also tackling companies that violate environmental laws, companies that violate environmental laws in EJ communities, civil rights violators, consumer protection, et cetera. So all of that affirmative work continues on as it will, and all of the constitutional and appellate issues that arise there are very much still at play. I think the more important point that I would add on top of that is that it doesn't do very much at all for what I'll consider defending affirmative priorities. No matter what change in direction you see out of Washington, Washington just doesn't move as fast as the states. Even a transformational period in Washington of united government with significant changes will move the ball forward, but states, blue states, red states, whatever, are always, I know we learn this in law school, it's like state experimentation, laboratories of democracy, but it's really true on the ground. States are trying things you just don't try in the federal government. And if you want to be a part of fighting for those efforts, whether it's a new firearm safety law or the creative immigration reform that we have, or environmental work that we're doing, or any of these other categories, COVID response, law enforcement reform, all of those things you're going to see first and foremost, I think, from the state level, whatever change in administration you see. And so the work that I do and the work that the Solicitor Fellow will do will have a huge role to play on the kind of affirmative cases that are, facing companies and stuff that I was talking about, and at least as importantly, on defending New Jersey's ability to reform law enforcement, to respond to COVID, which hopefully we're not dealing with in the same way in a year as we're dealing with right now. But having sensible gun safety regulation, our own rules on church state, all the kind of stuff that gets challenged in state and especially in federal courts, which themselves are going through a change that we're all seeing, are going to become at least, if not more important in the next year, even if there's a change in administration. So I'd envision a lot of that kind of work being what the Solicitor Fellow would work on with me, and the kind of case that they'd be briefing and ultimately arguing. And is the kind of case Emily was working on as well. I mean, one of the cases she talked about, a Title IX case, was a challenge to the federal government, but the Immigrant Trust Directive case she was talking about will have no matter what. We've got counties that sued us over our limits on, law enforcement working with ICE, and that's going to be true regardless of administration. And so I think that that kind of case absolutely persists. And Emily understood herself for me. She's an absolute all-star, and it's been amazing, amazing working with her on these cases. So be like Emily and come work with us on cases like that.
Thanks, Jeremy. I think we have one more question, which is, do we give any preference to current New Jersey residents? That is a good question for an office based in New Jersey. We don't give any preference to folks who are New Jersey residents. And in fact, from the 2019 and 2020 honors program groups, we have folks from like all over the country, and we're proud of that. We're proud that we've been able to attract applicants from all over, that they have interest in the work and that we're doing in our office, that they see the value in coming in and working with folks like Chris and Jeremy and Matt and Emily to really put forward the best kind of legal work that they can and the best kind of advocacy available in the state. In the country. But as I mentioned, if you are not a New Jersey resident, you have 12 months after you begin work here to either become a New Jersey resident or receive an exemption from the state's residency requirements. And we want to be transparent about that up front so that folks have expectations set when they come in. And I'll also take this as an opportunity to highlight once again that although there's no preference given to New Jersey residents, you really should be prepared to describe your interest in public service, which is a real through line for the folks who apply to our office, whether in the honors program or anywhere else. It's a really crucial part of the work that we do here, and it's frankly different than the other kind of legal work that people have available to them in the private sector. So we want to hear about your interest in public service, and we do want to hear about your interest in this office in particular. But you don't have to be a New Jersey. You don't have to worry if you're not a New Jersey resident in terms of getting a job. I'm going to do one last check of the questions. Does taking the February 2021 bar exam instead of October 20 put one at a disadvantage? No, it does not. We recognize that there are some difficulties outside of people's control regarding the bar exam this year and next year. If you are not barred in New Jersey when you become an honors program member, you're brought on as a law assistant, and then after you pass the bar or become a member of the New Jersey bar, you're converted into a deputy attorney general status. You do need to be a member of the bar to be a part of the honors program, but given the kind of difficulties in bar exam administration, we are working with folks from the 2020 honors program class, and we expect to work with folks in the 2021 honors program class to make sure that they're able to become members of the bar, and we will work through any of the time delays that we recognize are to the fault of no one applying for the program. And that looks like it for our questions that have come in. So I think that brings us to a wrap. I want to thank everyone today who's logged in to join the session for their interest in the program, their interest in applying for the 2021 honors program. The website, once again, is nj.gov/OAG/honors. You'll be getting that information in the flyers that are associated with this broadcast. But we want people to go to the website. We want people to share the website with folks who may be interested in applying for the program. And I also want to thank our panelists, of course, the Attorney General, and Chris Edwards, Jeremy Feigenbaum, Emily Wanger, and Matthew Burns. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules to join me and the other folks on the other end of the line here to learn more about the honors program. And I also want to thank the folks in the background who have helped put together this really flawless broadcast: Kelly Lucas, Whitney Lewis, and Tara Camp. Thank you so much for all of your work in putting together this broadcast. And if folks have questions about the honors program moving forward, you can visit our website, and there's a dedicated honors program email account that we welcome your questions and your comments. Thanks very much, everyone. Stay safe.